This is Jill Pack with the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 155, entitled Childlike versus Childish, Part 1, Imagination and Wonder. Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack, and I'm a certified faith-based life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I want you to know that no matter your season or your circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life, and I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my friends, and welcome to this week's conversation. I am so glad that you are here. Before we dive into today's topic, I wanted to share with you something I'm currently working on. It's called a conversation project. So what is this? I am seeking one-on-one conversations with 25 women of faith in the mid-season of life. These conversations focus on understanding your unique experiences, challenges, and insights during this important season of your life. These conversations are 30 minutes long where you are truly heard. We do it in a safe space for you to be able to share your authentic journey as a woman of faith in the mid-season of life. This is an opportunity for you to speak freely and openly about your struggles and your strengths. This conversation is based on deep listening, not advice giving. I promise in these conversations that I will listen with compassion, attention, and presence. I will show empathy. I will honor your story without judgment, and I will respect the confidentiality of what you share. Your story matters, because the experiences of midlife women are often underrepresented, yet they are full of profound wisdom and unique challenges. Your perspective is valuable, and it deserves to be heard. If you are interested in sharing your story, you can reach out to me by emailing jill@seasons-coaching.com with the subject line Conversation Project, or you can click on the link in the show notes to learn more. Now on to this week's episode. Isn't it interesting how many of us reach our 40s and 50s without ever really growing up emotionally? Now, I know, and heaven knows, I've been there. No one sits us down and teaches us how to manage our hearts and our minds as we grow into adults. I often tell my clients, we're all just trying to figure this out together. I want to paint a picture of what emotional childhood often looks like in our daily lives. It can look like those moments when something happens and we immediately react without pausing and considering our response. It can look like when we expect our spouses or our children to somehow make us happy. Or those times that we blame others for how we're feeling inside. Now, I want to contrast that with this beautiful freedom that comes from emotional adulthood. It looks like taking responsibility for our joy and our pain, understanding that we alone are responsible for our feelings, and finding our security in the Lord rather than in other people. Now, this doesn't mean we take responsibility for other people's emotions and behaviors, but rather we embrace our ability to choose our response. It's about intentionally deciding the person we want to be in those difficult moments of our lives. Speaking of difficult moments, I have noticed that what often helps me navigate them is tapping into something that we've all once had in abundance, that childlike imagination and sense of wonder. I absolutely love watching my grandchildren play. There's something so sweet and precious about how they see possibilities everywhere. Think about how Jesus told us in the scriptures to come to him, to follow him as little children. I believe he was inviting us and is inviting us into that same sense of wonder and trust. The beautiful thing about childlike imagination is that it helps us see God's hand in everyday moments. It opens our hearts to create creative solutions when life gets complicated. And it allows us to dream big dreams, even in the mid-season of life. I remember when my kids were young and something like a toy broke, and they would immediately grab tape and scissors and glue, and they would try to fix it. It usually didn't work, but it amazes me as I think about it, how their little brains went towards finding a solution. That's childlike imagination, seeing possibilities where others see problems. But there is an important distinction between this God-given imagination and childish fantasy that actually pulls us away from responsibility. Now, we've all been there, let's be honest. Whether we're daydreaming about winning the lottery instead of focusing on creating a budget that works for our family, or fantasizing about a perfect marriage instead of actually working on a real one, our real one, or maybe it's imagining everyone else changing instead of allowing God to change us. Childish fantasy becomes a problem when we use it instead of taking action, or when it helps us avoid difficult emotions or conversations, or when it creates unrealistic expectations, or when we believe things will just work out without any effort on our part. I remember feeling so frustrated with certain relationships in my life, and I would spend time thinking and focusing on how other people should change instead of self-reflecting on the part I was playing in the disconnection. Yet the Lord gently showed me my imagination and how it had become a form of escape rather than a problem-solving tool. So how do we keep this childlike imagination while growing emotionally? I believe it's about holding creativity and responsibility together. What is mature imagination? Well, mature imagination looks like this: not just dreaming, but also planning, using creativity to find solutions, and then actually implementing them. Imagining possibilities while staying grounded in reality, and using our imagination to understand others without making assumptions. This can look like a woman whose husband loses his job after 25 years. She doesn't panic or deny reality. Instead, she imagines several ways forward, creating a realistic budget and starting a small home business while he job searches. Her imagination serves her family rather than pulling her away from real life. What are some other examples? How about in parenting? You could use your imagination to see the world through your adult daughter's eyes, which leads to creative approaches that restore that connection in your relationship. Maybe in your marriage, when you and your spouse become empty nesters, you might feel like strangers. Instead of just accepting it, you imagine new ways to connect and rebuild your relationship around shared dreams and desires. In a grief journey, when loss overwhelms you, you begin to imagine grief not as a problem to be solved, but as a river to navigate. This simple shift can help you honor your loss while continuing to really live fully. Vision requires imagination. I would say even holy imagination. Seeing what isn't yet, but could be through personal revelation. This brings me to something really fun that I wanted to share with you today. I was recently part of a summit for midlife women where the speaker shared something so delightful. She asked the women to think about their shoe size and then relate that to themselves at that age. So, for example, I wear an 8.5 shoe size. When I was 8 years old, what was I doing? Well, I loved playing pretend with my friends. Do you remember the TV show Charlie's Angels? It was big at the time, and we would each play a certain role. I wanted to be Farrah Fawcett's character Jill so bad because that was my name, but I often ended up being Sabrina. I loved getting outside, roller skating, riding my bike, playing hide and seek with my friends. I had a Barbie house that I would set up on my parents' pool table in the basement, and I would pretend that the green felt was the house's yard with its beautiful green lawn. Yet, as we age, we tend to get more serious, don't we? It happens so gradually that sometimes I don't think we even notice. Children understand something we've forgotten. Play isn't just fun, it's essential. When we invite play into our lives, something beautiful happens. Our stress level drops. We're better able to connect with each other in deeper ways. And the problems that we have that we think seem so big can suddenly feel manageable. So what if we could act our shoe size a little more often while still honoring our adult responsibilities? This brings us to the practical part. How do we actually do this? How do we weave purposeful play back into our busy lives? Here are some ways that I thought might be a good place to start. First of all, start small. Maybe it looks like taking a different route home and noticing something new, or trying a 5-minute dance break when no one's watching, or drawing instead of writing your grocery list. Maybe it means redefining what productive even means, which includes recognizing that rest and play actually increase our effectiveness, or scheduling playtime as intentionally as you schedule work time, or seeing play as soul care, not just selfishness, and remembering that joy itself actually glorifies God. Or maybe we add playing with others, which can look like hosting a game night, or taking a class to learn something just for fun, or starting a joy journal. Maybe it's finding playfulness in daily tasks, turning on music while cleaning and dancing with your mop or your broom, or making up silly songs about what you're doing. Challenge yourself to find 3 beautiful things during your commute. I know that some of you are probably thinking, that sounds nice, but, right? We always have these reasons why we can't do something. But let's talk about some of the most common barriers. Maybe you believe that you don't have time. We will make time for what we value. Maybe you start with just 10 minutes a day. Play doesn't need to be elaborate or long to be effective. Or maybe you're believing that you'll feel silly. That initial awkwardness is just your play muscles getting back in shape. Start in a safe space with supportive people. Maybe you're having the thought that you don't know how to do it anymore. Follow the lead of the children or pets in your life. Notice what naturally brings you joy and do more of that. Or maybe you're believing that serious problems deserve serious approaches. Actually, play helps us access creative solutions that we might miss when we're stuck in serious mode. As we wrap up our time together today, I want to invite you to take one small step this week toward reclaiming that childlike imagination and wonder. Maybe it's spending 5 minutes cloud watching or coloring instead of scrolling on your phone. Or maybe just simply asking yourself, what would my 8-year-old self do right now? Remember, my friend, growing up doesn't mean growing serious. It means holding both responsibility and wonder in the same heart, knowing when to be practical and when to play, when to plan and when to dream. Next week, we're going to continue our exploration of childlike versus childish as we look at purposeful play and adaptability. Until then, may you find moments to see the world through the eyes of wonder, and may you remember that your heavenly parents delight when you come to them with the trust and openness of a child. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. I'd love to hear how you're bringing more childlike wonder into your life. Drop me a message or leave a comment. Until next time, this is Jill reminding you that it's never too late to reclaim the best parts of your childlike heart. Thank you for tuning in to the Seasons of Joy podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends and family. If you want to learn more about me or how to work with me, just visit my website, www.seasons-coaching.com, and have a joyful week.